You're watching QTV this morning. We are back again on another edition, and it's Thursday, the 27th of October, 2022, and we are broadcasting live from our studios on Kairaba Avenue. And I am Ibrahim Abalde. We are back again with my colleague Lolly M. Kamara. Good morning, Lolly.
Good morning, Mr. Balde.
Lolly, you're looking different today. I mean, you were not like this yesterday. I mean, it's very easy for women to change their appearance easily.
Easily.
Yes.
So this is why you should not underestimate the power of a woman.
No, I know women are
See,
powerful.
we are very much powerful. We are just like chameleons, right?
No, you can't. Well, thank God she said it for herself.
No, but in a positive way. In a positive way.
Well, Mr. Ade, I mean, she said it herself. So,
no, but in a nice way.
Then she said the positive way.
We change for the best always.
But it's a chameleon always changing for the positive or the negative.
I think usually
just change colors.
Yes. Just the blended. But it's interesting, just a quick joke about chameleons. Every time I hear people say the word chameleon, it reminds me, it's the only joke that I've heard a politician tell that was funny. And it was a Sierra Leone minister of housing. And he said, he was about to give a speech. And he said, let me tell a joke. And everybody thought, oh no. And he said, this man he was a school inspector. He said, and he went around inspecting a particular school, and as he went from class to class, he stopped at the English class, and he saw the teacher write something on the board, and the teacher said, what is this word, children? This word is chameleon.
Chameleon.
And so he stood and he listened, and he thought, maybe he means something else. And then he said, this animal can blend in whichever wherever it finds itself, it adopts the color of this thing, and it changes color to suit its environment. And so he motioned to the teacher and called him, and he said to the teacher, actually it's not chameleon, it's pronounced chameleon.
Chameleon.
And so the teacher, without even worrying, said, children, remember I told you this animal can change its color? It can also change its name.
No!
It can also be called chameleon.
Oh, he was so smart to say that. I mean,
that was a smart way of correcting himself.
So every time I hear the word chameleon, I always go back to that joke.
He was so smart to cover up himself that way.
It was a nice way of correcting himself.
If you can change your color, you can change your name.
You can change its name.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not a chameleon, it's a chameleon.
It's a chameleon. Chameleon. You know, Mr. Ade, sometimes pronunciation, like you said, it's pronunciation. They are very difficult to deal with.
They are.
Sometimes you can have, like, you will have the understanding, and you know the word, you know what you're talking about, but the tongue doesn't allow you to do the right pronunciation.
Well, that happens a lot.
Sure.
That happens a lot.
Exactly.
It happens a lot.
You know, my name.
Yes.
You know, my full name is Cherno Ibrahima Sori Balde.
Ah, okay.
What
You
a
know,
long
I
word.
have all those combinations. You understand? Yes, but for a particular tribe, they cannot mention my Cherno name. The right pronunciation is Cherno,
Cherno.
but they pronounce it as Chorna.
Oh,
You understand?
okay.
So some people say Kerno,
Kerno.
Chorna.
Chorna.
You understand?
Was it
My friend from England will say Ibrima.
Yeah.
That's how he pronounced my name.
Well, remember when Gambia was doing very well in AFCON, and all the English commentators kept talking about Abli
Oh,
when they meant Ablai.
Ablai.
All they had to do was ask. For me, that's laziness,
Yeah.
actually. So that's the difference.
Abli.
So when I hear all these African names being mangled, Sadio Mane played in England for what, 10 years? They still called him Sadio until the day he left.
Yes, Sadio.
Until the day he left.
Yeah.
Just again, that's laziness. Just call the guy. I'm sorry, your name's a bit unusual. How do you pronounce it? End of story.
Yeah, we struggle too to pronounce maybe European names or American names. I mean, we struggle a lot.
I mean, Trump.
Trump,
You know, Liz Truss. We don't struggle.
Boris Johnson
Boris
or
Johnson.
Johnson.
Boris Johnson. Johnson. You even have Johnsons here in the Gambia. It's not an unusual name. We don't tend to struggle, and I think we also tend to go the extra mile to try and, because again, someone like myself living in England or traveling in Europe, they're always mispronouncing my name. So I always try and pronounce people's names properly. I always try and say, and they say, oh, it's a difficult one. I said, no, tell me and I'll try. You know, and you try, you know, and
Yeah.
it's always good to get people's names right.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Yes, Lolly, what's up?
Nothing much. It's just that it's my birthday today, so I
Yeah,
have to look
you
different.
said
Happy
nothing
birthday.
much. Happy birthday, Lolly.
Happy birthday,
Thank
Lolly.
you. I thought you were gonna say it, but it seems you were just forgotten. So I
Well,
just
you know,
remembered.
someone said to me it's Lolly's birthday today, but I mean, I wasn't taking it serious
I
because
know.
I didn't hear it from the horse's mouth. You understand? It's important sometimes to hear certain things. Yes, on our program today, we'll open the program by wishing Lolly a happy birthday. You know,
Yes, all of us.
many, many returns.
Yes,
You know?
indeed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You have many more.
Many
Many
more. Thank
more.
you very
It's
much.
Lolly's
I mean,
birthday today, and we are accepting gifts as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
Very
or,
Yeah.
or she is?
we.
I am-
Yes.
All of a sudden,
We.
It's your birthday.
But it's our birthday. I mean, in
He's
our office,
accompanying
in our
me.
office, QTV here, we share and care.
Because I heard one colleague say today, just before we came down, it's our birthday
Yeah.
today. And I said, whose birthday? I said, yours? She said, no, Lolly's. I said, what do you mean our birthday then? It's
But-
Lolly's birthday.
Yeah.
You always train us here to be family. I mean,
well, this
you
is
always
it.
train
So
us
we're
to be
big
one here.
family.
So-
We are family. We are family.
Exactly. So on our program today, we'll be looking at the African proverb, and then the newspaper review. Mr. Ade is here. Mr.
Oh,
Ade
yes.
is back.
I'm
Oh,
back.
yes.
I'm
Oh
back.
yeah. All
Welcome
right.
back.
Then
Good to be back.
Oh,
on
yes.
the community watch, we'll be looking at the free breast cancer screening, which is sponsored by the Q Group. I mean,
Sure,
we'll be having Dr. Abubakar Jah and Prof. Ogub. Yes, they'll be here to help us discuss this and other important topics too will be discussed on this program. So we'll take a, well, let's go with the African proverb
sure.
first, yeah.
So the African proverb reads, "Seeing is different than being told." That's the proverb.
I think that's a universal one about seeing is believing. You know, people can tell you things in many circumstances, but I think where the difference comes is that when it comes to things like matters of faith, for you to have faith, you don't have to see proof necessarily that you can touch and feel and so on. But generally, seeing is believing. Particularly if somebody tells you something that seems a bit far-fetched or a bit wild or a bit improbable, you say, no, I want to see it for myself. It's a kind of natural human. So I'm not sure if it's an African proverb necessarily. I suspect it's a worldwide proverb about seeing is believing. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right there. And
Exactly.
most of the time, people will tend to talk about people, but you'll always have to be careful not to act unless you see the individual reacting.
We, you know, as you and I know, Lolly, working in a newsroom, you can go somewhere and you can interview somebody and they can tell you a fantastic story that sounds very plausible and true. But the minute they mention the other party in it, the first thought that comes into your head, I better speak to that other person.
Definitely,
And
the
guess
other
what?
side of the
When you go and get the other side of the story, suddenly it flips the whole thing on its head. It's not as clear-cut as it might at first appear. So that it happens a lot.
It happens a
Happens a
lot.
lot.
And people need to be very much careful with that. You know, you just
Yeah.
just rush to conclude things.
Sure.
Anytime you're told, just make sure you get to the other party and find out
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be to be sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, seeing is believing. It's better to go and verify. It's better to see for yourself. It's better for you to get the actual scenario of what had happened.
Yes.
Well, what do you think is the danger of believing whatever they said to you?
There are some dangers, because sometimes what tends to happen is that a lot of things you believe is because they come from somebody you trust. But even if you trust somebody, doesn't mean that they have done their own checking.
Definitely.
And so nowadays, the age we live in, this is particularly apt, I think, because in this kind of digital age, people receive something and they send it without even thinking, without blinking.
Yeah.
I can name 100. I mean, for example, there's a video and some images that went around. They've been going around for the last 4 years, claiming to be Paul Biya of Cameroon, saying, "Look at Paul Biya; he's having to be helped, and he's 85. He still doesn't want to give up." Listen, that's just stupidity and laziness. I know they say all black people look alike, but the guy doesn't even look vaguely like Paul Biya. It is not him. you know, it's somebody else, you know. But that, I've received that hundreds of times, and I always say to people, here's a picture of Paul Biya. Tell me if this is the same person. It's not him. You know, and yet people who you trust and you think are sensible, they will send it to you, saying, oh, these Africans, they don't want to step down. Look at Paul Biya, he's 85, he doesn't want to give up. You know, and so people send things now. They get it,
Just
they don't
immediately
verify.
release
And
it.
as I said, even people you trust and think are intelligent people, they can't stop and think for themselves and think, well, is this true? Shall I check? For example, again, there was this video going around where Xi Jinping was speaking, and according to what went around, he was saying how stupid African people were. I mean, how would he say such a thing in front of all African presidents? You know, somebody just needs to use their brain and say, this is not. So I just thought, okay, let me find the actual video. And then when you go to the Chinese website, the government website, it's got the video, it's got the transcript. He's saying nothing of the sort. In fact, he's saying the opposite about how friendly relations are between Africa and China. And yet people would send it around because it didn't have any translation. They put the words, oh, this is what Xi Jinping is saying. He's saying how stupid and lazy Africans are, and da-da-da-da. It's like, come on, stop sending this rubbish. So, you know, you need to verify if you can. And these days with the internet, honestly, it takes about 1 minute.
Well, we have a problem because, you know, maybe for you, you are going to digest the information before you send it. I mean, you are going to verify.
Definitely.
You are going to,
It's a habit.
see.
It's a good habit to have.
Yes.
And sometimes we see stuff on the internet, and now Gambia, we have these fact checkers because a lot of things goes on the internet.
Sure.
So they make sure that to fact check, and they will come back to say what has been published before and the real thing is different. This is the actual truth, different from that.
I mean, I used to spend my days, people used to laugh at me, but I used to, you know, you all know I used to work for the BBC. And even after I left, I would go on the BBC site and I would fact check stuff about Africa. And for all the fact that it was the BBC, the reason I would always write to them and say, this is wrong, is because people think it's the BBC, they must be right, they must be correct. A lot of times they were not, or they made mistakes. They're human beings who compile these things. And even since I've joined QTV, these guys know in my office, I send stuff correcting them.
Sure.
BBC, CNN, all of them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, what I found working in those environments is that if it's about Africa and it's bad, people will believe it. If it's about Africa and it's good, they're like, I don't know if this is true. And so when you see bad stuff that would end up tainting or painting a country in a bad light, correct it.
Well, Mr. Ade, I mean, you know, you mentioned a very important point here. Well, I mean, sometimes you will see people will send a lot of things that are happening in our country. You know, sometimes I doubt how is this thing going to portray the image of our country outside, because today if you film, maybe you make a video of a particular event in the Gambia, maybe you send it outside on the internet, people out there, you know, watching, some of them want to visit the country, especially for tourism. You know, it might tarnish the name of the country. That's why people should take up responsibilities and know what not to send.
Sure.
You know, but it's complicated.
You know, and with Africa, what complicates it even more, and I say this with some pain, in the last couple of weeks, you know, people have been contacting me saying that people have been contacting the British and the Americans saying, get us out of the country, I'm an opposition member, the government are cracking down, they're killing opposition members. It's yeah, they might be opposition members, but they're not activists, they're not involved at all. But because they didn't, people had stopped finding ways to get out of Sierra Leone, they're now using that in their hundreds. They're applying, saying, oh, give me asylum in America, give me asylum in Britain, otherwise I'm going to be killed. It's rubbish, total rubbish. Yes, there have been incidents of people being killed, you know, during the demonstrations that happened a few months ago. People were shot and killed, and of course 5 or 7 police people were killed, including a couple who were beheaded. I mean, but people have now used that and said, oh, look how terrible the country is and so on. And, you know, there was a time when, and I'm ashamed to say this, during the war, lots of people were fleeing Sierra Leone. They're going to England, claiming they couldn't speak English. And I was always invited along as an interpreter. Because they could speak Creole. And I would always ask them, when we were outside of the interview room, I said, I don't believe that story you just told. between you and I tell me, and I can tell you 100%, none of them were telling a true story. They did it to get out of the country. You could understand because the country was at war, it was a brutal war, and people wanted to flee. But I stopped going because I realized that I was colluding in actually painting the country in a bad light. It was already in a bad light because of how brutal the war was. I didn't need to contribute to that by getting people to get fake stories and confirming their fake stories for them. So I stopped being an interpreter for that.
Wow.
You know,
Well, I mean, like you said, I mean, sometimes anything bad, when you show it outside, people believe it. But the good thing about Africa, people don't talk about it. We have many good things.
Yes.
We have beautiful
Beautiful
things. We have
things.
very, very good things. We have good people in Africa. But it's difficult because of the notion that people have, you know, against Africans.
Especially when things that we share on social media.
Well, this is it. Let me give you a quick example. In the last, we're in October now. From January to October, in London alone, there have been about, 40, 50 stabbings, killings. Imagine if that was Banjul. Not a single tourist would come here.
No.
Not one. Not a single tourist would set foot in the Gambia.
No.
This is not in England we're talking about, just London. And yet millions of people go to London as tourists. They're not scared. But if that happened in an African country, trust me, nobody would set foot in that country as a tourist.
Absolutely.
Why? But yet it can happen in London, supposedly safe city, a city that it has more CCTV cameras per head of population than anywhere in the world. And yet these killings are happening. Even yesterday there was one. You know?
Well, you know, sometimes I mean, when you look at the way things work, I mean, outsiders, I mean, other countries tend to advocate for human rights. I mean, they advocate for maybe equal rights and justice all the time among people. But Mr. Ade, you'll be surprised to know countries that advocate for this. In fact, some of them are the violators of the rights of their own citizens.
Without a doubt.
You know?
America, England, France, there are many of them you could name. And yet they're the ones who scream the loudest when it comes to, you know, talking about things like human rights. And, you know, if it was a level playing field and if all things were equal, of course, we accept that people have their dignity, they have their human rights, should be respected. But it should be a two-way street. It shouldn't just be them kind of dictating to us, which is what tends to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And just a reminder, our minds and heart goes to all the people that lost their babies due to the AKI.
Sure.
We are praying for you and your families. We know you are going through a very hard time right now, losing loved ones. You know, it's very difficult and very hard. It's a devastating situation. But we will get through this, inshallah. Now we'll take a short break. After the break, the newspaper review. We'll be back.
Have you been looking for the perfect indoor router with long-range Wi-Fi coverage and faster internet speed connecting all your smart devices? Well, we present to you the QCell Indoor Router, a router that has all you need and much more. For just $4,275, you can get 4G plus internet speed, wide coverage, and connect up to 15 devices. And that's not all. The indoor router can be used for both office and home needs. So, enhance your internet experience with our indoor router. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus, we innovate, others follow.
Yes, we are back, and this is QTV this morning. And that was the African proverb. If you miss anything discussed on this platform, please go to our social media handles and, you know, follow us, and also see all the things discussed. You could watch it, and you can follow the repeat at 12 midnight. Yeah, so Lolly, we're back. What do you have there?
Yes, I have the point with me, and on the front page it reads, Gambia, Nigeria concludes SME exhibition. Abubakar Jawara files. Yeah.
Sorry for going. Oh, I meant to attend that
Summit.
and it's finished.
It's with the exhibition.
Oh, no.
Finished. Then you
But
are not
I was
very
off
much-
sick,
Yeah,
so
sure.
yeah. Oh.
Abubakar Jawara files $8 million civil suit against Sabali. Red Cross deploys 700 personnel to collect AKI syrups. Samate, Gambia has been assaulted. Gambia expects right self-sufficiency by 2026, says Minister of Agriculture. UN hails Gambia's peacekeeping mission. Those are the headlines on the point.
Yes, Mr. Ade, what do you have there?
I have one of these words that you only see in West Africa. Condole.
Condole, yeah.
Parliamentarians condole with AKI victims' families, which
Oh,
you have just, of
to
course,
condole.
you know, you've just given your condolences. In all my years in England, I never ever saw this word appear anywhere in a newspaper. Or
Condole.
but it's quite common here, you know, to offer your condolences. They condole. So obviously about AKI, suspension of drugs prior substantive lab evidence saved lives. This is, sorry, it's a bit fuzzy,
Yeah,
the headline. Government to set up commission of inquiry into AKI. So 3 stories on AKI straight away. And then editorial power of inquiry on the syrup case to be exercised by the executive and the legislature. And USAID impressed with GRCS work in assisting flood victims. We did a story on that yesterday. Was it you?
Yes.
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 Minority leader moves motion on AKI. Another story on AKI. So that's 5 on the on the front page. Currency depreciations risk intensifying global food and energy crisis. And a very important question of the day is asked here: how could labs to test drugs be established with speed? And we do need to establish them. If we don't establish them with speed, of course, we could go to at least 2 neighboring countries that have labs that can test, Cape Verde and Senegal. And we could partner with them, sign an MOU with them. They're not that far away. And until ours are set up, but we do need to have our own labs.
Lab here,
The
yeah.
thing is, I mean, how long does it take for you to establish a lab? You know, that's important too.
It's not just the lab itself. You have to train the technicians.
Definitely.
Who can operate the lab, and it has to be on a sustainable basis. And the reason I say this, in other instances where they've set up similar labs to test for stuff, unfortunately, once you've trained people to that standard, which is a kind of international standard, somebody in Europe comes and offers them a job, paying them 100 times what they're getting in the Gambia, and they're gone. So it's not just establishing the physical lab itself, but it's about sustainability of the establishment. So it might take time, but of course time is what we don't have.
Definitely, we don't have
Time is what we don't have. Now, this is the Voice newspaper. Currency depreciations risk intensifying global food energy crisis. And also police prosecutor accused of taking bribe. And former TRRC lead counsel Esa Fall explains the purpose of TRRC.
Yes, he was being questioned at a forum,
Yes.
and he explained what the TRRC was all about.
All right.
In case anybody's wondering about that one.
Yes, thank you very much, viewers. If you're just tuning in, it's QTV this morning. So now we'll go straight to the newspaper review. Let's start with the TRRC, the importance. I mean, Esa Fall is out. Esa used to be the man of the moment.
He was the lead counsel
Yes.
when the TRRC was on, and it was something that, when it was on, it was probably the most watched program in the country. Of course, it was broadcast live on QTV, and you know, people were contacting me once they became aware of it outside of the Gambia, saying, "Oh, I didn't realize these kind of things happened in the Gambia." And I said to them, "Don't worry, Gambians didn't realize these things happened in the Gambia." So you know, it's not just outsiders. Obviously, some people knew, but I tell you, the majority did not know, and people were still in denial up to the day the TRRC closed.
Sure.
That these things, you heard people saying, "Oh, these people were paid, they were offered
didn't
money,
happen.
they were offered a house." It didn't happen, but of course it happened.
Myself included, Mr. Ade, you know, I didn't believe all these killings happened in the Gambia. You know, when the TRRC started, I was like, maybe they'll just look at, you know, some of the things that happened during the 22 years, you know. But I didn't expect this to go this far,
And
whereby
as deep as it
where
went.
they line up people and kill them, where they execute people, where they use nylon bags and kill people, whereby they do anything they want to people. I mean, I wasn't expecting it this way.
Nobody expected
No.
it, because what was shocking was that everything you've just mentioned, the people who did it are the ones who came and confessed to
Yeah.
Gambia and to the world. So it wasn't as if somebody
Made
whispered
it
this
up,
or
yeah.
made up a rumor. These were the guys who said, I did it, you know, and I'm asking for forgiveness or whatever the case may be. And that's why it hit home. I mean, and I've said this many times before, there were at least 2 or 3 occasions when people in the office cried listening to some of the shocking testimony.
Revolution, yes.
You know,
Even myself, I cried the day I had my cousin's husband, the way they murdered him. I was like, what? Because I could remember the day they came and picked him up.
Look
It was
at that.
very early in the morning, you know.
Look at that.
And
You know,
when I had the narrations, I cried. I was like, what?
Because-
After sergeant for him, like how many years?
this is it, you know,
On the
and
board,
that
yeah.
was the shocking matter, where you had, you know, there was a couple of times when there were a couple of widows who heard for the first time how the husband had been killed,
Yeah.
and they ran out of the room. You know, it was such a horrific
horrible.
killing. I mean, so it was quite shocking. And yes, I mean, Essa was asked at this event to sort of explain what the TRRC was all about. And of course, he did it very well, as you would expect, somebody who has a grasp of the things. And of course, because of the TRRC, that it raised his profile enough
Yeah.
for him to actually want to stand
For the
for the presidency
Yeah.
the last time. And, you know, he may come again. He's a young man.
Definitely.
And he may come again, but it certainly gave him a profile that, you know, he would not have had he not been the lead counsel. And he did a brilliant job. You know, I think one must put on record of being the lead counsel in trying to drag out of people and hold them to account in a way that the rest of the nation could say, yes, this is what happened, these are the perpetrators. And of course, we ended up with this huge report,
Sure.
which we're now monitoring, all of us, to see whether government has accepted in their white paper that it would implement. But I keep saying we need to have our expectations in check, because certain things might not be easy to implement.
Definitely.
Yes, slowly.
Yeah, it is quite important that the TRRC was up, because when we say, like just the proverb we talked about yesterday, almost matches this one, because you cannot always forgive when you don't know why you're forgiving.
Sure.
So it was important that the TRRC came up, people came and confessed, so that those that were offended could easily forgive and move on, even though healing takes time. But it was really important, and we commend Isa and his team for such
sure,
yeah.
for sure.
So we hope, as Mr. Ade said, and hope that government will really do something with it.
Well, implementation, I mean, it's the thing now that we are looking forward to. Although the government accepted the
All the
CSOs, I mean,
recommendations,
you know, they sent, you know, a particular document to the government. But we were surprised and happy to see the government accepted almost all of
Except for
the
two,
report.
yeah.
Yes, but now, accepting it, it's another thing. But implementation is what we are looking forward to.
But this is it, because amongst the implementation, it's not just when we talk about reparations, it's not just about financial reparations. People also want justice.
Definitely big time.
And you have to balance out with, okay, somebody has come and they've confessed that they did something terrible. Do you forgive them and move on, or do you prosecute them and send them to prison for a very long time? Those are some of the difficult things that have to be balanced by government, albeit they've accepted the recommendations and they said we will implement them as much as possible. But I think that's where the difficulty comes. You know, how do you implement is all very well saying we'll accept. And the reason I said earlier about keeping expectations in check, in Sierra Leone we had a similar thing, and the recommendations ran into over 1,000 pages. And I can tell you, not even 10% of those have been implemented
Wow.
20 years later, practically. So
It's always
it's not easy.
It's
It's
not
not
definitely.
easy.
Resources,
Well, I
expertise.
mean, for I mean, I don't know. Let's leave that to the government to handle.
Definitely,
Of course.
yeah.
But there are certain people that came, I mean, and kind of play smart, I mean, at the TRRC. So, I mean, sometimes I sit and wonder, how are they going to deal with these people? How are they going to handle these people? Some of them are, I mean, scot-free for now. They are going their way, handling their own business.
Sure. I mean, you heard somebody like Edward Singate came. He'd been implicated by several people. He came, he defended himself very well. He's obviously a highly intelligent guy. And of course, he's one of the ones that they've recommended should be prosecuted. I think mainly because he didn't seem to accept, the evidence that was overwhelmingly against him. He's no longer in the country. It's going to be almost impossible to extradite him, to try him here. Can he be tried somewhere else? It can happen. But so those are some of the difficulties that have got to be faced and confronted. It's not easy, but like you said, some people played smart. I mean, we had the former vice president, the number of times she said, I don't remember. Like I said in the office at the time, when it got to about 50, I stopped counting, really, because it just got ridiculous. You were the VP, and yet you either didn't know or you didn't remember major things that happened under your watch. What was your job? So yeah, like you said,
very disappointing.
it was extremely disappointing. You wanted people to come and be honest, because that's the only way something like that can work. And if people are not fully honest, then you've compromised the system and you've compromised the commission straight away. And really, we wanted total honesty. So
Well, what's your take?
Let's just wait and see where the government is going to act upon what they've said, because taking up that challenge, everybody is waiting and watching, because victims really need justice.
Yeah.
So justice must be served. I know it's not going to be an easy one, and it's not going to be like just rush it that way. A lot of things need to be put in place. So we'll hope and pray that government really comes out with something tangible for the victims.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Patience is what
Patience,
is
yeah.
needed.
All right, what do you have there?
Just the Red Cross deploys 700 personnel to collect AKI serums. They're still on the AKI. During the conversation I had with them during the visit to flood victims in Kotu, this was some of the things that they explained. So I talked to them and they were like, okay, we've deployed people to URR and LRR, not only to go and collect these syrups, but to also sensitize parents to know why we are collecting this, because you cannot accept when you don't know why.
Sure.
So they endeavor to talk to them first to make sure that they understand the reasons, then they can voluntarily go and get these things, and which I think is a smart move.
It's a great move.
Yeah, so right now they've collected a huge amount in those part of the country, which is URR and CRR.
Exactly. Well, I mean, for the syrup right now, I think it's difficult. I mean, even people are now hesitant to take a lot of medicine.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Lolly talked about the measles, rubella campaign. That just ended on Sunday.
At this time, it came at a very critical time. I think all these vaccines would have come before, I mean, this saga. I mean, it was
actually supposed to come before, but the COVID-19, hindered the process.
And now
so
people are thinking
because of COVID.
They are trying to use the COVID-19 in another way. I mean, giving it a different name to administer these vaccines to the public.
What's remarkable is that for the best part of 50 or 60 years, we've been taking vaccinations without thinking.
Yeah.
You go, you get vaccinated. Some of us still have the marks.
Yeah, I still have mine here. If you look at mine, I have my mark here.
And yet all of a sudden COVID-19 comes and vaccines are a problem. I mean,
big
come
time
on.
problem.
I think part of it, of course, is because people started putting out these kind of fake information saying, how could they have come up with a vaccine so quickly? Yeah. Of course, COVID-19, the reason it's got 19 is because it's not the first of its kind. You know, okay, 2019, hence the 19. But they've always been working on vaccines to try and counter this. Obviously, the fact that it brought the whole world to a standstill meant they speeded up the process. They tried to speed it up. But you know, when you hear about people having third and fourth and fifth boosters, then people started thinking, well, hi, is this thing working or not? So, you know, in a way, you're not surprised that people are a bit skeptical. And so, you know, but for years we've been getting
Using
vaccination
vaccines. Even
and
the health
not thinking anything about it.
officers will tell you vaccines have been here since the 40s.
Yeah.
It's just that people, you know, get these misconceptions on social media.
Listen,
you know,
social
just
media is a pain in the
no.
what's
And
it?
that has really affected their campaign big time. So what they do is they will allow the Red Cross volunteers to go ahead of the public health officials that are administering the vaccines
Right.
to go house to house and talk to
Right.
parents or caregivers to allow their children to be vaccinated. Or else it's going to be a waste of resource because you have these medicines already, the vaccines already in the country, and it's supposed to be given out. So if people don't go and get it, it's going to be a waste.
Yeah, and you know, these days people tend to believe what they read on social media more
Yeah,
than
big
what
time.
a health official is telling you face to face. You know, just because some guy's wearing a white
I
coat
was-
and he's
yes.
got a stethoscope around his neck and he's against
I was
it.
sitting with a
Yeah.
friend the other day. You know, we were sitting, you know, at home, brewing attire.
As you do.
Yeah, during the weekend, we were enjoying ourselves.
Yeah.
This guy was listening to one WhatsApp audio.
Yeah.
The guy was emphasizing on things. I mean, he was like, "You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that."
And
I
if you
said,
get
"Oh
these
my
messages,
God,
make sure
these are
you
the type of
transfer."
people that convince, you know, like you convince the people, don't take
to ensure that people take because it is safe and you know it has nothing to do with the AKI I think as well.
Like I said earlier, it's the age we live in, that even with all these people, WHO, Ministry of Health, all these people telling you these things, all it takes is one audio from one idiot.
Yeah.
And then I have a friend who we don't even speak anymore because at the beginning of COVID-19, he started sending me these stupid videos and audios saying that COVID-19 was because they were trying to put out 5G masts for, you know, GSMs. And lots of people sent out those silly. I mean, people tend to have forgotten it now.
I heard about it.
But that was the big thing, that it was the 5G mast that was causing COVID-19. It's like,
Hey.
what? This
A
is a thing
lot
that
of-
can be transmitted from human to human. How can raise from a 5G thing? And yet he was convinced, and we started arguing. And I'm telling you, we haven't spoken for 2 years because of that. Because I just got fed up of it. I said, you're an intelligent man. You should not be sending rubbish like this and then trying to defend it. But that's what you get. You know, all the health officials in the world can speak to you. All it takes is one idiot with an audio or a video, and suddenly they're convinced.
Because it's
hundreds of
easy to
people.
make videos and
Of
audios
course,
now.
of course,
You
of
can-
course.
you can-
Smartphone, you know, and boom, and you're away.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Lolly, what do we have there again?
Just that the Minister of Health, Samate, said Gambia has been assaulted with the AKI. That was the statement he made yesterday at the Parliament.
At the National Assembly.
National Assembly.
Once the debate, which got fiery at times, once it was over, he was asked to speak,
Yeah.
and that's part of
What
he
he
said. And you know, he spoke with some passion
Yeah,
about, you know,
yeah,
the impact that it has had on the country. You would have to be inhuman not to have been affected by it. That, you know, 70 children have now died and their families are grieving. I mean, it's a shocking statistic.
Shocking
You
moment.
know.
Yes.
So yes, he made that statement.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've seen something
Mhm.
that I think we should discuss. I've seen someone written on this paper, that is The Voice. Gambia is far from true education.
Gambia is far from true education.
Yes, I mean, it's far from true
Wow.
education. Mr. Ade, what do you have to say about that?
Well,
I think we're
it's-
trying. We're trying, although we didn't get.
How did he measure that?
Please,
Yes.
but no. I mean, the thing is, it depends on what they mean by that. But again, I've mentioned this time and time again. In 2018, myself and others were involved in putting on an education conference called Our Education, Our Future. And one of the reasons we did it was because we felt the education system was not equipping young people to actually have a productive future in the country. And so, you know, we should be, that's why I'm glad that something like the Q group now, the scholarships they give are for STEM subjects. That is what is needed. The world is leaving us behind. And so the education system we have, it's not about learning this by rote and, you know, memorizing things. You know, what can you do that's going to make you productive in a practical sense for the country? So
yeah, I think the education system, they need to review some of their curriculums. I think it doesn't make sense to learn things that you won't, you know, deal with after education, after school. I mean, they've pressured us to do certain things in school, but since I left school,
you have not
today,
done.
I've never.
You mean you've never used calculus since you started working at QTV?
I've never used almighty formula. I've never used Pythagoras theorem. I've never. In fact, the grasshopper. I mean, the agama lizard. I mean, these are things that we've been doing.
But you might have wanted, you know, you dissect a frog. You might, you might want to be a doctor and a surgeon later in life.
And agriculture, you have not been farming?
No, well, farming.
But those are the things that we should.
Farming to some extent, yes, I can understand. That is very important. But I mean, certain things, I don't think they are necessary to teach us. Teach us something. I mean, that will benefit us, I mean, after school. But I've not seen a lot of things. Maybe you can tell me, all right, now, what you do is, from high school, you want to be a TV journalist.
Also,
okay, I'll train you on journalism. Maybe I'll give you the basic skills. Maybe when you start doing journalism from primary school, that will help you before you graduate.
Yes, I think also we are not given the chance to select what we want to do. Because sometimes you would want to do everything.
Yeah.
Because they will say you have to do 9 subjects.
Yeah, sure.
In, you know, junior school going down, you know, and I think that's a whole lot. Things they need to look at that also.
I did science, I did chemistry, I did physics, I did further maths.
Yeah.
You know,
okay, you did further maths.
I did agriculture.
It has to be either 8 or 9 subjects.
I did further maths and I did the normal mathematics.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
You did including English.
You know, English.
Yes.
You know, you have to do English. You have to do which subject again?
Social and environmental studies.
Yes, I did English during
English is understandable because it's the, if you watched the National Assembly, for example, yesterday, there were some people who struggled to express themselves, and people were saying, why don't we amend so that people can speak in the language
they feel
they're most comfortable with. And I think that has to happen, and has to happen soon. I think the reason it hasn't happened is that, you know, honestly, and you know, people criticize when I say this sometimes. Sometimes people come here and they hear people speak and they can't believe that this was ever a former British colony. And they're thinking, these people went through school here where the language of instruction was English, and yet they struggle. And what I find interesting is that in our office, there are people who are linguists. They can speak Wolof, Mandinka, Fula, you name it. Some of them can speak 5 and 6 languages. But for some reason, when you go to the schools and you hear how English is taught, then you realize why people struggle with English. Because, and again, I said this many times
and also,
before.
it's important for us to, I think the education sector, there are many things that should be reviewed. Even our teachers. I mean, these people teaching our children. We need to. The teacher, you need to get a particular qualification that will, you know, make it fit for you to be able to teach. You understand? You cannot be speaking a very bad English at the same time. Sorry to
trying to,
and you know,
trying to teach,
I cannot understand
because that's what your students will end up.
You know, you can see the difference. Look at students that are going to very, very good schools that have very good teachers, and students that are going to any school. You understand? You can see the difference.
Sure.
You know, when I saw my neighbor's little boy speaking very good English, I was surprised. But when I asked, they said he's going to a very good school.
So you now send your child to that school, I hope.
No, I sent my kids to a very good school.
Okay, good.
You know, because I definitely want them to get a very strong foundation.
Sure.
You know,
well,
I don't want them to go to any school.
That's right, and I think that's a good point. It's a valid point.
But
I think you made a point.
I want them to get things that I didn't get when I was a child. I went to a public school,
which is fine.
I went to. Man, I went to a very fast school. I went to a school that you know. I mean,
you don't need to name it.
No need to name it.
But you've said something magical there. I think for most of us as parents, what we want for our children is actually for them to have better than we have.
Oh, yes.
Really, I mean.
That's the whole essence.
I think so. I think so. So yeah.
So Mr. Ade, thank you for joining us on this.
Always a pleasure,
It's
and
good to have you
great
here.
to be back at work.
Yes,
as well.
and you know, our viewers, Mr. Ade is back. He'll be joining
Fully
us on
back,
the platform.
Yes.
And we'll take a short break. After the break, then we'll be joined by Dr. Abubakar Jah. You know, Dr. Jah, he respects time. You know,
Dr. Jah will mention about men also having breast cancer.
Absolutely,
Because
it's
I know
very
we're
important.
talking about
We focus only
breast
on
cancer.
women.
We tend to focus on
Yeah.
women.
So we'll also be having Prof. Ogub. I hope I mentioned it well. Yes. So we'll take a short break. After the break, we'll be back.
Thank you.
QMoney is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new QMoney app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy QPower, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send QMoney, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sinu Calpe. We innovate, others follow.
Want it? Order for it and pay quickly using QuickPay on the QMoney platform. With great technology comes ease and convenience. Get a glimpse of what a comfortable life is with QMoney by dialing *323# now. Call 133 for more information. QMoney, Sunyu Kalpe. Save up to 50% energy with the new side-by-side Samsung refrigerator. Samsung air conditioners come with HD filter and antibacterial for your protection. Save time, energy, and effort by using our washing machines, loaded with innovative features that offer superior cleaning technology. Step into the future of television with our slick and slim Samsung Smart TV designs. Sizes range from 32 to 85 inches. Smart LED, Crystal UHD Ultra High Definition, and QLED Quantum Dark LED. Get new ways of interacting with your TV. Unparalleled vision, right from the comfort of your living room. Our products are backed with 1-year warranty. Visit us at Q South Building at Caraba Avenue or at Boosterview Turntable. Contact us on 333-217 or email us at info@quantumnet.gm. Espas Motors is the largest and most modern auto service in the Gambia. Espas Motors is the only authorized dealer in Chevy, Mercedes-Benz trucks, Mercedes-Benz buses, Kia, Ford, Futon Mini and Midi buses, Futon trucks. At Espas Motors, we have qualified professionals who use modern technology to diagnose and repair all brands of motor vehicles. Espas Motor services include auto sales, auto repairs, vehicle painting, availability of high-quality spare parts, towing services. We are reachable at any time. Call Espas Motors on 352222 353-4444 or locate us on the Bertil Harding Highway. Espas Motors.
QMoney, the biggest mobile money service in the Gambia, has taken mobile banking to the next level. Now, you can link your QMoney wallet with your bank account. Yes, link your Ajib or EcoBank accounts with your QMoney wallet and get instant access to your cash anytime. No need to queue at the bank anymore. Transfer funds from your bank account to your wallet or your wallet to your bank account using QMoney Bank Link is the fastest, most secure, and convenient way to transfer funds between your wallet and bank account. For more information, call our customer care on 133. QMoney, Sunyu Kalpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Light. From the beginning of time, light has been there.
It is integral to our survival and to our way of living.
We need light to work,
To build,
to grow things, and even to see our loved ones.
light makes things easier and better.
So QCell has changed the way you buy Q-Power to make it easier and more accessible.
You can now access the same service quickly and get your cash power tokens instantly with the new QCell Q-Power code.
To light up your world, simply dial *363#.
With a touch of your fingers,
With ease and convenience from the comfort of your home or office,
you can bring light into your world instantly with *363#.
Q-Power, lighting your world.
QCell Sunyabus.
We innovate, others follow.
Your favorite QCell service has gotten bigger. eFunkanta. Now you can loan bigger credit amounts to make life easier for you. Loan $75 and $100 and pay later. Yes, you heard me right. Get credit loan from $10 to $100 using eFunkanta by dialing *393#. Anytime you run out of credit, whether you want to buy Q-Power, browse the internet, make urgent calls, or send SMS. eFunkanta is the service for you. Dial *393# and choose the loan amount of your choice with no hassle. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunyabus, the pioneers of mobile loan service in the Gambia. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
To make sure your company's products and services reach your potential customers, it is essential that you choose the right channel for your marketing purposes. QTV has the widest reach locally and beyond, and we can give your business the visibility it needs. Call QTV Marketing on +220 324 4444 or email us at marketing@qtv.gm and take your business to the world.
QCell compagnie bu ëppa client yu ees yu koy jëfandikoo ci biir réew mi. QCell am 4G plus coverage bu gën a yaatu ci biir réew mi, internet bu gën a gaaw ñetti yoon naataangoom yi. kon nag toxul léegi dal di dial *335# dal di bànneexu 4G bu dëggantaan. QCell network Gambia bu ñu gën a wóolu.
QCell GSM company minna yirwa tariyata Gambia banko kan. QCell la 4G plus network o ye banko bela mura andung ala internet o tariyata sidula saba katambi nyongol la. Sawun sahin yesta 335# kumandi yadati kemuna fang 4G sobe wala. QCell Gambia la network lanna yari on.
QCell woni GSM company ɓurɗo janɗude ko leydi Gambia ɗo e QCell 4G plus coverage on ɓuri yawude laaɓi tati ɓe wone poɗodirde ɓen. Waɗu dial *335# fi wawa nafitorade ko woni 4G. QCell network ɓuraɗo holorede ko leydi Gambia.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching QTV this morning, and we are back. Now we're going straight to the Community Watch, and we have Dr. Abubakar Jah in the studio with us, and Prof. Ogub. Welcome on this platform, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, Doctor, it's not a new face here, and I don't know of Prof. Ogub.
He's also not a new.
Oh, he's also not
a new face.
Okay, all right. Then we.
While you were on your leave,
yes, he was here. Okay, all right. Welcome again, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, it's good to have you here. We'll be talking about breast cancer and cervical cancer screening. As you know, it's going to be a day at the Bunung Maternal and Health, commonly called Jammeh Foundation. That's where we're going to do the screening. So the gentlemen are here to tell us how it's going to happen, you know, what is involved, and, you know, what time should you go there. You know, but first, let's start with Prof. Ogo. Good morning. It's good to have you here once again.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So can you tell us about breast cancer, the importance of screening?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me once again. I really want to thank QTV for giving us this platform to educate the public about what breast cancer is all about. Breast cancer is a disease of the breast, as the name says it. It affects women predominantly, and it can also affect men. So it's not only women that can have breast cancer, it can also affect men, though the ratio relative to men is relative to women is much, much less. Maybe it's 1 to 20 in that ratio, or 1 to 30 or something like that, depending on the society we're. Now, when it comes to screening, there are different levels of screening. And that screening, we talk about, generally for the breast, talk about breast self-examination. You can do, that's where the woman examines her breast herself using a very systematic, organized procedure. Then you have clinical breast examination, whereby the person goes to a health post or a health outfit or hospital, and health personnel does the breast examination for the patient. Then you have other modalities of screening, whereby you can use ultrasound, you can use mammography, but you know, you have to be very careful when you use those other modalities, because expertise matters a lot in those things. The technicalities that is involved is quite high, because I know in the Gambia everybody opens up a screening, a ultrasound shop, but not majority do not have the expertise to do that. And for mammography, that's also a very tricky one, because you look at the epidemiology of breast cancer in Africa, and most of the breast cancer we have are usually premenopausal women. There are women that are not yet attained the menopause. Where people use mammography for screening, they are usually postmenopausal. And the reason is basic, simple. The breast is dense in a younger woman, so the probability you pick out a lesion or something in a breast that is dense is less compared to a woman that is postmenopausal, that the breast is less dense. So that is why in the Western world, screening is usually done using mammography, and they have a very organized screening method. So we cannot translate what happens in the Western world to this place, not understanding the demography of your patients. The demography of our patients here, most of our breast cancers are premenopausal. So you discover that mammography screening does not work for that, unless there's a family history of breast cancer, and you can use that as a screening tool to make sure if the lesion is there, you can get it. So those are the basic. But the most important one, as I've said, and what we are going to do at Bundum, we are going to combine a lot of some of these modalities, because we have specialized people who understand this, who knows this very well, because we are serious people, and we are not out, it's a non-profit organization, and we're out to give the best to this society. Another thing I just want to draw your attention to, screening also comes with its garbage. When you screen, you pick things early. Then what do you do after that?
Sure. I will really, really curious
and those are the things that we must have a referral system that makes sure the screening has a beneficial effect for the patient. You have screened the patient, you've gotten the patient, you must follow up, and that's part of what C3G will also do. You have to follow up with the patient. If you don't follow the patient up, then there's no use screening the patient.
Definitely.
So those are the things, and the cost of care for cancer has to be looked at. So let's give an example. You screen the patient, you pick up the lesion. Of course, the patient comes to the hospital. It's a long journey. The patient, I'm a pathologist, for example. I work at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital as a pathologist. So what the surgeon will normally do, send the patient to me to do an FNA, which is called fine needle aspiration. And we establish whether this thing is cancer or not. If it's cancer, then the management takes a different course completely. And in the journey of management of cancer, that journey cannot be completed in the Gambia alone. Because we don't have radiation therapy, we don't have an oncologist. So the earlier the patient gets to know, and the patient moves in that journey, probably to go out of the country to complete the therapy is what is needed. And screening will bring up so many patients, Because I've seen young people, as I've said the last time I was here, have breast cancer, people in their 20s. And that leaves a lot of, and unfortunately, the management of cancer is not democratic. We must get that fact clear. The cost of what you pay in the United States might be close to that what you pay here in the Gambia. When you look at the income gap, you discover that it's not a democratic setting. And that is what worries me. And patients will have to use all their resources to step out of the country
to go get treatment.
But we need philanthropists, we need people that are well-to-do. I don't see enough, since I got to I don't see enough of individuals supporting. I don't see it enough. And I think this is a call to order, a call to help for help for people who are well-to-do in society.
Yes, very important. Lori?
That's why I want to bring in Mr. Ja, because I understand you're also part of the foundation, the C3G. And as an organization, what are some of the aims and objectives that you want to achieve? Because we know cancer is not an easy thing to handle. How are you going to do this?
Thank you very much for having us on the program today, and thank you to Prof. Ogun for coming in. He has already told us that he's a pathologist. A few years ago, before he came here, we didn't have a pathologist in the Gambia, and sometimes we had to send our samples to Senegal or beyond to have it checked. His job is a very difficult job. It's not everybody that does that. And what he is doing is looking at the tissue itself and looking at the cancer cells themselves. As a doctor, I don't look at the cancer cells themselves. I look at the patient and I see signs that this may be cancer, and I send it to him and he looks at it and he can identify which one is a rogue cell and which one is a good cell, and he can come back and tell you this is a cancer. So we're very happy to have him in the Gambia, and we're very happy to have him also as part of C3G. I mean, I was really very happy when he came and we invited him to be part of the activities of C3G, and he took it so quickly. He's left a lot of things that he has to do and come here. So Prof, I'm really very grateful for that, and we're really very happy to have him. He said something very important, that C3G is a group of serious people. And maybe that is why he gravitated to C3G. And we have a lot of serious people in C3G, apart from the medical people like us. We have some, big businessmen, some bankers, some part of C3G to make sure that we help. Because for cancer, he has also alluded to that treatment of cancer cannot be left in one person's hand. It's really very difficult. The journey of cancer can be very long, and all of us must be part of it. The reason why all of us must be part of it is that the cause of cancer in many cases is not known. Some of the few cancers, we know their cause, we know what causes it, and we can avoid it. But a lot of them we don't know. I don't know whether I could get breast cancer tomorrow or not. I don't know who is going to get it next, because we don't know exactly what causes breast cancer. We know there are some associated factors, but we don't know exactly. So everybody has to be part of it. We have to have a situation in the Gambia where we can deal with all the spectrum of treatment of cancer. And that will bring me to Loli's question, which is, what is our aim? Our aim is embedded in our name, which is cancer, confrontation, care and consolation, which means that we want to confront cancer. How do we confront cancer? What we are doing today, what we are doing on Saturday, which is to educate people about cancer, so that people know what cancer is, okay, and to also be able to diagnose cancer. That is how we're going to confront cancer, by making sure that we have the facilities to diagnose cancer. Now we have there was a time when if I see a patient with suspected breast cancer and I take a sample, I can wait for 3-4 months and I don't get a result, because it has to go abroad to be tested. Today now, if I send a sample to him, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm getting my result, and I can now move on with the treatment of that patient. So we have gone some way along the line. So that is confronting cancer. Then we go to something called caring for cancer. So when you have the cancer patient, you have to care for the patient. C3G also, we are working on that. And today, we have a lab that we have set up with the help of the Japanese embassy, and he is helping us a lot with that, because the lab is situated in Banjul, in the teaching hospital. We could have put the contract with the Japanese embassy, meant that we could have put the lab anywhere. But because we know what cancer is, and we know where cancer is being treated most
which is in the teaching hospital. So we decided to situate it in the teaching hospital. And it is doing tests free of charge for cancer patients along their treatment, because when you're treating them, you need a lot of tests along the way. And sometimes you need some screening tests also. We're doing all those tests free of charge. Some of these tests are very expensive. They can cost up to $3,000 one test, and they may need 5-6 tests along the way. And they are not available mostly in the public sector. The private sector are charging up to $3,000 for one test, for those tests, like a liver function test. So how can the cancer patient afford that? So we're doing it free of charge.
Wow.
But having said that, I have to go back to one thing that he mentioned, which is that we also, as an organization, okay, a lot of us are putting our own money in this so that it can move. But we cannot afford to do everything for everybody. We're doing it now free of charge for everybody. So the reagents we have bought, which is in the millions of dollars, I can tell you, and some of the organizations, including Q Group itself, has donated to that. But we are asking people to donate more, to look at what we are doing and donate more. So we are caring for patients in that way by putting up that lab. So that lab is very, very important, and is the first solid step done by any organization in the Gambia to fight cancer and to be able to treat cancer. Then finally, the final step is what we call consolation, which is to care for the patients that we know are end of life. In the Health Link, we had a very sad story when we had the Health Link last time. Somebody called and said, look, my mother is sick. She has terminal breast, I think it was cervical cancer. And we have gone to a hospital, and the hospital told us that we cannot treat her anymore, we cannot cure her anymore, we can only palliate her. And she was calling to find out whether we can help her. I wish I could tell her we could help her, but I couldn't tell her that we could help her. And I said, well, this is, you know, the final stages, but we can help. How can we help is to form something called a hospice. There is no hospice in the Gambia today, which is a hospital where we give tender, loving care, TLC, to the final stage patient, where you can give them, you know, a very nice environment to stay in their final days, where you can give them painkillers enough so that they are not in pain all the time, where you can give them medications to alleviate some of their other symptoms like vomiting and others, and just guide them through their last stages in a very dignified way. Unfortunately, a lot of the patients now in the Gambia dying of cancer are dying in very undignified way. Lots of pain, smelling, lots of things that we cannot even mention here.
Imagine the stress that you are going through, the pains at the same time. You die like that.
You die like that, you know. So we want to now set up a hospice. So we're looking for funding for that. We have talked to the government, and they're going to allocate a piece of land in a very nice place with lots of trees and things, that we can have a very nice environment for these people. And then when they're at the end of life, we can care for them. And this is something that we're going to come out again and ask for help so that we can do it, because we have to do this together.
Absolutely. Very, very important. Yes, Prof, coming back to you, I mean, what is the difference between like the cancer for men and the cancer for women? What is the difference?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Let me first of all use the data we've had in the Gambia. Since 2019, we've had consistent diagnosis of cancer via pathology. I'm a pathologist, as I said. We are two of us, really. I have Dr. Usman Lee, who's also my colleague, Adeodo Francis Small. He trained in Ghana and is back in the country. Now, when you want to look at the differences, there are two things I want to tell you here that you must get clear. If you go on the internet and search for cancers in the Gambia, you will get data, but that data is not real. They are projections. The cancers they say does not exist in the Gambia. I've diagnosed many of them since I got to the Gambia. And the data on the internet says they don't exist here. So, there's a problem here. The world should not tell our stories for us. We should tell our stories. And we've been making effort in that direction. There's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort in that direction. Now, in the last, let me say up to August this year, over 1,000 diagnoses of cancer we've made. 1,000 cases.
1,000?
Over 1,000.
Doctor, is that normal, Prof? I mean, is that normal? Or
well, for our population,
is that beyond the number?
Even the numbers is supposed to be more than that. The number is supposed to be around, if you use projection and calculation, it's supposed to be about 2,025.
Wow.
So you discover that you don't even know the total number of cancer cases we have here. Because many people don't even come to hospital. Now going back to your question primarily, the commonest cancer based on anecdotal evidence in the Gambia is liver cancer. But that also has to be interrogated well scientifically. Definitely it will be, but you know, we're having hepatitis B vaccination, so issue of liver cancer developing through hepatitis B, cirrhosis, ultimate liver cancer should be going down. So we have to actively conduct research in that area. That is one. Two, that is the number one commonest cancer here. The next one is cervical cancer. Cervical cancer occurs at the mouth of the womb. Okay? It's caused by an infection called human papilloma virus. That too is a... So the two cancers I've mentioned now, liver cancer, cervical cancer, are preventable cancers. In quotes, they are preventable, but they are the commonest we have here. So you wonder, so if you have a vaccination for hepatitis B, liver cancer disappears. If you have a vaccination against human papilloma virus in a well-orchestrated, well-organized immunization system, cervical cancer also disappears. You don't see those cancers in the Western world. It's as if they have conquered that. So next that follows that is breast cancer and prostate cancer. So we have liver is common in men and women. I mean, it's present in men and women. Cervical cancer is mainly a disease of women because it's a disease of the womb, mouth of the womb. Breast cancer, primarily a disease of women, can also affect men. Prostate cancer is primarily a disease of men. So in that order, that is what we have in both gender. Now, when you separate the gender, the commonest one, the two commonest ones, cervix, cervical cancer, and breast. In men, then maybe liver, cervix, and breast. I'm not absolutely sure how it plays out because you have to do research in these things. It's not something you just... Then for men, it's liver definitely, followed by prostate. Okay? And that's how it's be. So those are the separate ones. And I've said, if you have a good organized immunization system, you can tackle cervical cancer and liver cancer that goes through hepatitis B virus, because hepatitis B virus is the commonest cause of cancer in this part of the world. Hepatitis B, hepatitis C. And those are the two, those are the key messages I want for the public. And for cancer, what causes, as Dr. Jah said, nobody knows what causes cancer. We must make sure this system works for everybody. Not because I have money, then I can jump on the plane and get out of the Gambia. 90% of our patients cannot jump on the plane and get out of the Gambia. Yeah. So this system must work for everybody. But you must remember, you might have emergencies that you might not be able to run out of the country. So this system must work for everybody. Definitely. If this system does not work for you, know that if you have an emergency, that system will fail at any point in time. So we must make sure, even for cancer patients, the system must work for all of us. And that's the message I will say. And I will appeal again. Philanthropy is a key component of any society. Philanthropy fails, the society fails. You look at the Western world, look at the universities of this world, Harvard of this world, they are run primarily through philanthropy. They have investments that runs the universities, that run the systems, and that is what we want. Research is domiciled in the universities, and we have to support the universities, support the hospitals, support the healthcare system. And people must also, people that are well-to-do must all be willing to pay for that services, and so that we can use the money we get from people that are well-to-do to serve people who are not that privileged. And it's a redistribution of wealth, we call it. And that way, the society thrives, the society will be able to do well. And be able. So, for data, we at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, the Department of Pathology, just to service that we'll be going around hospitals because we are trying to collect data. Hospitals, I've been to Sharap, asked Dr. Jah to try and see how we can collaborate. Because if you don't have data, you can't plan. It is only when you have data, you can plan, and you can talk to people internationally. Because if somebody goes on the internet and just, oh, what's in the Gambia, and just look, oh, these people don't have problem of cancer. But that's not the story.
Exactly.
You know, I'll tell you an irony. I was primarily based at University of Ibadan in Nigeria before I came to the Gambia. And in 1996, the cancer registry of Ibadan went moribund. The person that came to reactivate that cancer registry in Ibadan was from the Gambia.
Wow.
was from the Gambia. But that registry has flourished completely and is still flourishing. And it's this benchmark they use for most of the statistics for West Africa and Nigeria. But the Gambia National Cancer Registry is moribund as I speak to you. So look at that irony.
Definitely.
That's an irony.
Yeah,
so you
definitely.
can see that is where we need to put our mouth. We don't put our money where our mouth is. So if I can tell you that, I'm from Ibadan. I came from University of Ibadan. And I tell you that. So you can imagine. And I know the cancer registry in Ibadan. I was the deputy director of that registry for almost 12 years. And I know what exists there in terms of capacity, in terms of publications, in terms of what we have done. It's massive. But Gambia that came to help us resuscitate that registry, the registry is there.
Exactly. I'd like to know.
So
yes,
so
Doctor,
that's it.
Exactly, Prof.
Something needs to be done.
What will happen to an individual who doesn't stand to fight cervical cancer? Like, you know, you have cervical cancer. You said it sits on the womb.
Yeah, it sits at the mouth of the womb.
At the mouth of the womb.
Yeah.
What will happen to a woman who doesn't cure this?
Well, it's not a matter of cure. Many of our women don't even understand what they have.
Yeah.
They don't even know which disease they are fighting. They don't understand the disease. They think it's one witch somewhere that is causing it, which is not true.
Yeah.
The most important thing, if you don't do anything about it, you will die.
Yeah, definitely.
That is it's a death sentence. If you don't treat cancers, it's a death sentence. But you can fight cancer at the early stage and conquer cancer. That's the most important thing. Early detection, and that is why for cervical cancer, for example, the easiest way, just like what will be done in Bundum on Saturday, is that we're trying to look at the cervix, which is what at the mouth of the cervical cancer, and see whether there are early signs that might suggest early cancers.
Yeah, that's quite important.
There's a test we call pap smears that we do also but many people, even the test is as cheap as in Banjul, it's just $100 here, I think. People don't even do it.
Yeah. So, Doctor,
So
I'd
that's
like
it.
to engage you because this event is very
Wow,
important. So in all of.
Wow.
Parce que xam naa ne jigéen yu bari ñu déglu wala yu seetaan bugga nañoo teew foofu inshallah. So bugga nañ nga wax ñu yéen lan moo sabab lii ak lan ngeen séentu bés boobu noonu ak after screening bi tamit lan ngeen war a yan jéego ngeen di war a jël inshallah.
jërëjëf loolu waaw comme lu ñu doon di wax nii rek mbiri cancer la ñoo wax lu tax ñu ko wax mooy weer bi ni octobre mooy pink octobre moom la ñoo di fàttalikoo cancer bu dee di jàll jigéen ñi ci ween bi waaye tam dañ ko dee jël pour fàttali ko tamit bu dee dal jigéen ñi si jurekaay bi moom la doon wax nii cancer boobu ma sol nii mu ngi wax ne cancer can be cured ne cancer mun nañ koo faj soo seetee si gannaaw lu moo binda mooy ne only if you detect it early waaw only if you detect it early waaw moom mooy wax jëpp mooy su nekkee ne teel nga koo gis waaw kon di nga ko mën a faj fii Gambia fii ñu ngi faj cancer yu bari comme nu mu ko waxee léegi nii so léegi ñun C3G lu ñoo def Bundung samedi ñu ngi ñaax nit yi nag from 7 o'clock ñu commencé ñëw dinañ fa am ay nit yoo xam ne dinañ leen register programme bi na start from 9 o'clock ñu ngi kontaan di wax ne first lady bi ci boppam dina attend programme bii nii am na yeneen dignitaries yu bari ñoo xam ne dinañ ñëw support si programme bii nii suñ commencé am nañ fa docteur yu bari lu mut fukki docteur yoo xam ne dinañ fa nekk man mii dinaa fa nekk di liggéey ak docteur yooyu noonu li ñoo def mooy dinañ number one dinañ jàngal jigéen yi naka la ñoo seetantaloo seen ween bi ba nga xam ne su fa dara lu bees génn see rek dinañ ko teel a xàmmee suñ ko teelee xàmmee ñu teel a dem lopitaan suñ teelee dem lopitaan ñu faj leen génnee ko ba mu jeex takk nga xam ne léegi duñ soxlaati yeneen façon yi faj yi nga xam ne prof Ogun moom la doon wax comme radiothérapie wala chimiothérapie loolu noonu su nekkee ne teel nga koo gis bañ ko génnee mun naa am sax doo soxla loolu noonu yëpp ñu fajee ko fii mu jeex takk ci biir dëkk bi so dinañ am fa foofu tamit docteur yoo xam ne suñ leen jàngalee jigéen yi naka la ñoo seetee loolu docteur yi tamit seet seen ween yi seet ndax gis nañ fa dara loo xam ne mun naa junjane xëy na cancer fa suñ gisee loo xam ne cancer fa léegi nii comme nu ma ko waxee am nañ tesukaay yi dinañ ko yóbbu fan lañ koo tesee prof Ogun mu ngi nii ci biir Banjul docteur Ousmane Ly nga xam ne moom tam mu ngi liggéey moom Gambien la mu ngi traîner Ghana moom it tamit mu ngi fa ñoom dinañ seet lii nii seet ndax cancer la ndax du cancer su nekkee cancer la am nañ ñi nga xam ne su nekkee ne cancer bu teel la nañ ko faj su nekkee cancer bi nga xam ne xaw naa léet tuuti tam dinañ la wan yoon yi nga xam ne moom ngaa jël ba dem ba di faju ji loolu mooy cancer ween bi suñ demee si cancer jurukaay bi tamit dinañ leen seet boobu moo gën a jafe tuuti parce que jurukaay bi ci biir la nekk kenn du ko dee di yow doo ko mën a gisal yow jigéen bi doo ko mën a gisal sa boppa so ñun ñoo def am nañ ay jumtukaay yoo xam ne dinañ mën a seet si jurukaay bi am nañ fa docteur yoo xam ne loolu tam moo tax ñu jóg ñu seetal la sa jurukaay bi su nekkee ne am na loo xam ne nuroo na cancer wala gis nañ ne cancer la nu ñoo def mooy am nañ fa jumtukaay tamit boo xam ne ñun ci sponsorship yi Japanese embassy bi machine yooyu foofa lañ ko jëndee machine yu cher a cher la yoo xam ne dinañ mën a faj cancer bi foofu so yow ñëw nga seet nañ la gis nañ ne yaa ngi am commencement cancer dinañ ko mën a faj foofu ba nga xam ne du la joxaati problème ci benn 5-10 minutes lañ koo faj so loolu noonu cancer jurukaay bi tamit dinañ ko seet dinañ leen jàngal tamit mandarga yi nga xam ne soo ko amee war ngaa ñaaw njorta ne xëj na cancer mu ngi ñëw dugga ci si man nga gaaw nga dem lopitaan parce que wax bi yëpp lu ñoo wax nii yëpp mooy ne cancer pour faj ko da nga ko war a teel a gis so ñun lu ñoo jéem léegi nii moom comme mooy lu prof Ogun wax ne léegi nii soo demee ci bitim réew cancer jurukaay baa nga fa de cancer liver nga fa de waaye bareetut lu néew la ko gaay day gis lu tax mooy nit yi eewu nañ nit yi xam nañ cancer yi nii cancer ween bi nga xam ne dafa sori xëj na mu ngi fa de waaye bëriwut tamit parce que nit yi xam nañ cancer ween bi dañoo teel a jóg so ñun wax bi yëpp mooy ñu ngay jàngal nit naka la ñoo teel a jóg nga xam ne suñu demee fii ba fukki at ci kanam juróomi at ci kanam duñ amaati cancer yi nii nu mu bëree léegi nii wala it tamit suñ ko amee it tamit dinañ ko teel a gis ba nga xam ne nit ki dina mën a faju fii nii si Gambia balaa moo dem bitim réew so loolu daal mooy liggéey bi nga xam ne moom la ñoo liggéey samedi bii nii di gërëm nag ñëpp a ñoo xam ne dugal nañ ci seen loxo ñu bëri ñoo si dugal seen loxo dama ko dee wax all the time ñu ci gën a dugal seen loxo ci at bii nii Q group si la bokka ñoom def nañ ci xaalis bu bëri ay junni dalasi yoo xam ne dugal nañ ko ci lii nii am nañ yeneen groupe yoo xam ne tamit joxe nañ ci xaalis boo xam ne léegi nii dinañ mën a def loolu noonu successfully dinañ mën a jënd bagage yi nga xam ne moom lañ soxla di gërëm tam gars yi bundung may see xaasal nag kii nii docteur Mamadi Cham nga xam ne moom nit la koo xam ne soo liggéeyee moom rek sa liggéey dina mën a dem parce que he is very organised so organised na place bi nga xam ne léegi nii loolu dinañ ko mën a def ñu leen a jox nag dig dajee ba foofu noonu ku nekk na ñëw waaw loolu nga ñëw nga cover programme bi nga xam ne léegi nii di ngeen mën a jàngal ñeneen ñi parce que save life ci cancer ku nekk mun na koo def yow mun ngaa toog léegi nii sa lal di tëdda di nelaw yàlla ngi laa bindal tiyaabo because demoon nga ci loolu noonu jàngal nga keneen koo xam ne léegi nii moom mënoon naa nekk ne dina gis cancer bi léet léegi gis na ko aali faj nañ ko te yow sa loxo dugga na si so ñun ñëpp nañ ci utee tiyaabo ñun ñëpp nañ ci utee ne defal nañ suñ dëkk dara so képp ku mun a dem rek na dem mu jàngee si dara dem joxe ko keneen.
All right, thank you very much Dr. Jah for coming and Prof for coming on this platform.
Thank you very much.
And we will be there on Saturday to cover the event.
That will be fantastic.
Mbokk yi ñu ne leen bundung la moo xewee si hospital bi dem leen ngeen dem screen seen boppa am na solo it's free of charge, right?
Free of charge.
Waaw
soo demee tamit su nekkee yaa ngi jógee fu sore ñëw ba foofu dinañ la jox ndékki jox la nga añ.
kon joolaay xam nga bundung bari na joolaa kon joolaay ma ne leen waaw Saturday la ban time
seven nit yi commencé ñëw waaye liggéey bi dina commencé boori 8:30 9 o'clock.
waaw kon jeex na tak. All right, thank you very much viewers, this is all we have for you in this edition. See you next week inshallah. Bye for now.